Alright, so here you are on the second week of homework 3, where I have asked you to do Gauss elimination. So if we go here to the homeworks for this semester, we got homework 3, and we have 4 problems and an option for a bonus point. Alright, and so problem number 1 I showed you how to do in the last videos. And then problem number 2, I say use either Mathcad or SMath, graphical programming, calculate the angle between two vectors of the same dimension. And there you're basically going to use the definition of the dot product, and you're going to create a function in Mathcad or in SMath. And then for number 3, I ask you to write a program to multiply two matrices if possible. And really what you're doing is you're implementing this equation, okay? And so you're going to have a nested loop of 3 loops, and you could go down through your variables here, and this is what you need to do. The only difference here is if you're in your inner loop of the 3 loops, you have to assign C11, and you have to add it to the last C11 result, okay? And and so that's something you're going to need to do to make sure that you sum up all these variables, because when you go through the nested loop, you're going to get the product of each one of these, and then to get the sum you have to add it to the result from the previous loop. Now I got a couple questions about the homework in when I say write a program in MATLAB to perform Gauss elimination, not naive Gauss, or if people had to multiply two matrices in Mathcad or SMath. So what I wanted to do here is just take a moment and show you how you need to do this, and if you're going to use Mathcad. So we're going to use Mathcad, and we're going to multiply two matrices or two vectors. What we really need to do is we have to, say, define a matrix, and in this case say we'll just do 2 3x3s, and it could be we could be defining vectors or whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay, then we'll go here and just populate this guy with some random values. Alright, now so I have an A matrix and I have a B matrix, and again I'll create another 3x3 matrix and just put in again some random values. And once we have these defined, what we're going to do is create a function that takes these two matrices and we'll do something to them. Okay, and that's where we write a program. So there's a little bit of confusion and some questions about how to do this. So this is what we do. So here we'll call this will be our function, and we'll call this multiply two matrices. Okay, and we'll do colon, and it'll automatically give us that equal sign. And I forgot to do something here. I'll go back over here, and I'll call this it's going to take two functions, and it doesn't really two parameters into this function, and it doesn't really matter what we call them because we're passing two parameters. So I'll do A comma B, okay, and then I'll do colon equal, and then over here this is where I need to write my program. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do add line. Now everything you do has to have this line in front of it to be a part of this function and this program. Okay, and so the first thing we can do is if we want to multiply these two matrices, and I think I said what I said to do this in. I said you can write a program in MATLAB or in Mathcad. Okay, and we'll go here, and we'll say we have two things that we're bringing in here, A and B, and what we want to do is we want to create a third matrix and store the result. And I don't think we have to define it beforehand. I think in MATLAB sometimes you do, and that's why I gave you the zeros command so that you can create a matrix with zeros. Okay, so for example, if we had to multiply two matrices in MATLAB, we'd say we have a matrix A and a matrix B. We can use this size command, and it'll store the rows of A and the columns of A, the rows of B and columns of B. Okay, and then we can create a matrix C that is the going to be the result of the product of the two matrices. Okay, which would be the outer dimensions, assuming the inner dimensions agree. Okay, and we can check the inner dimensions with the Boolean statement and say, hey, if the columns of A are not equal to the rows of B, then hey, you can't do this. Otherwise, go ahead and try to multiply them. And here we have a nested loop for I equal 1 to the rows of A, j equal 1 to the columns of B, and for k equal to the number of rows of A. And then we say Cij is equal to Cij plus Aik times Bkj. And where that comes from, that comes from our equation here. Okay, so Cij is going to be here. If we have C11, then I and j are going to be 1. So we have 1 and 1 in this equation here. Okay, and then we'll take the sum from k equal 1 to n, where this is the k is equal to your inner dimension of your product. And here we have A11 times B11, then we increment k, and we'll have A12 times B21, then we'll increment k again and have A13 times B31. Okay, now in MATLAB we have to, or Octave, in order for us to do the sum, we've got to keep track of the last result. Okay, so here you see we're assigning the right-hand side, okay, to the left-hand side. And the first time through, this is going to be 0, okay, because I created this C and it has all zeros in it. But then after we calculate a product of Aik and Bkj, okay, we're going to add it to 0 the first time, then we're going to have some value here, assuming that this product's not 0. Okay, so then the next time through the loop, in order for us to multiply all these 1, 2, 3 elements, we got to keep track of the first one, then add it to the second one, then add it to the third product. And that's what we're doing right here. Okay, that's why we have to have this Cij is equal to Cij plus the product, okay, as k goes through. And you'll probably have to spend a little bit of time with these indexes, but what this problem here is asking you to do is just write this program which implements this equation and will look something like this. Okay, so not too hard there. Okay, but don't just copy this and copy my variables. You know, try to understand what's going on. All right, now if you want to use Mathcad and you want to do something similar, I don't think you have to use that zeros command and create a matrix with zeros. You may have to, but like my philosophy of programming and many others is we'll just jump in here and see what happens, and we'll fix it if there's a problem. If there's a problem, nobody gets hurt. All right. So here we go. We have two matrices, and I need to create these 3 for loops. So first thing I'm going to do is create a for, and what I can do is actually see if the inner dimensions agree. So I can say if, and I think I have. Let me see if I have a rows command. What happens when I do rows of A? Does that give me a value? It gives me a value of 3. Okay, so I can test here and say, we'll just make this a little bit easier. I'm going to delete this first line, and I'm going to say RA is equal to. And really, if we want to be able to multiply two matrices, we have to check the inner dimensions. Okay, so this is the rows of A by the columns of A, that's the size, and this is the rows of B times the columns of C. So the columns of A, okay, we need to give that, we can assign the columns of A, and here when we're writing a program we have to do this, which is a local definition of a variable. It's a way of assigning it. So we say the columns of A are equal to the columns of A. and let's make sure, we're going to go back up here and make sure that that command actually works. And it didn't give us an error, but we have to put an equal sign to see if it evaluates, and sure enough it does. So we'll say the columns of A is equal to the columns of A, and then come down here and we'll say the rows of B, okay, is equal to the rows of B. And then we'll add another line, and oops, not right there. Now here's a little trick in Mathcad. If you hit Control and hit Spacebar, you'll see that this blue line changes what it underlines. And here we got to select the whole line before we add a line. All right, so once we do that, we can create an if statement. We'll say if, or let's see what happens. So if if the columns of A, and we got to come up here and go to our Boolean tablet, our Boolean toolbar. We'll say if the columns of A, okay, are not equal to the rows of B, then so that it'll say do this if the columns of A are not equal to the columns of B. We'll just put this as 1. And then we want to get this format here. So we'll say we'll return a 1 if the columns of A are not equal to the column. Actually, let's return a 0, which means false. So we'll say we'll have a 0 if the columns of A are not equal to the columns of B. Otherwise, we're going to do all this stuff. So we'll come down here to the otherwise, and we're going to add a line, and it's going to change the place of the otherwise. Mathcad tries to get you to program in such a way that when you read it, it makes sense. But when it moves stuff around, it can be more confusing initially. But this just says we're going to get a 0 if the columns of A are not equal to the rows of B. Otherwise, we're going to do all this stuff. And the otherwise is what we're going to do. We're going to create a for loop, and we're going to say for I equal to 1. Then we're going to do a range variable. And so it's going to go from 1, and here we are going to go, our I is going to go from 1 to the columns of A. And we need another loop down here, which says for J equal to 1, range variable to the rows of B. And we're going to get an error here, but I'm going to go ahead and get that error and then explain it here in a second. And then we have another variable. We can't type 4 out. We have to collect this 4. Then we'll have our third one. And this third one is going to be the same as the inner dimensions, which is going to be the columns of A. Okay? And what we want to do here is create a C, and then we're going to do open square bracket, I, comma, J. And this guy is going to be equal to control space, control space. So we select the whole variable. We're going to assign the variable to itself, and then we're going to add the product of A open square bracket. And here we go back to our definition of the product, and here we have AIK times BKJ from K1 to N, where N is equal to the inner dimension of the product of the two matrices. I'll go back over here and we'll do, I forgot what it was it I, comma, K, and we're going to hit control space, select this whole guy, and we're going to hit the multiply command or the shift 8 or asterisk, wherever it is on your keyboard. B, open bracket, and then it's K, comma, J. And I need to double check my equations in the definition. So up here, you see we have AIK times BKJ. And then we have that sum from 1 to N, and that's where we get this expression like this down here. And in order to do that in this program, I have this sum. I take the last result as I go through this loop 3 times, and I add it to the previous result as I, and j are as k is incremented through that row / column. Okay, and if you follow the indexes through, I mean, you'll prove that to yourself as you spend a little bit of time and look at it. All right, now I know that this is going to give me an error. And then down here I have this extra line, and that's where I need to return the product. So here I'm going to return C. Okay, and then I'm going to come down here, and everything is okay right now until I try to use the function. So I've defined this function, and now I want to use this function on our two matrices A and B. And then I've got to put a capital A and a capital B, because this is an arbitrary definition of any A and B or X and Y or I and P or whatever variable you want to call this. This just means I'm passing two variables in, and then I do all this stuff on the variables. Oops, this is going to be A, and this is going to be B. Some of you probably saw that 10 minutes ago. All right, so anyway, I have this product here, and I want to get the result. So here, I'm going to hit equal, and I get a problem. Okay, this value must be a matrix. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to trace the error. Previous. This value must be a matrix. Next. Okay, so maybe we do have to create C. All right, so we're getting this error here, which says this value must be a matrix. Okay, and if we go to trace error and go to the previous, we're going to find that C must be a matrix. So it just doesn't know what C is. So the first thing we really need to do is just fill C with zeros. So what we can do is we can add a line, and we can create another 2 for loops. Okay, and in this case we're going to say for I 1, we'll do the range variable to the columns of A, and then j equal 1 range variable to the rows of B. And then here we'll do C, I, comma, J, and then we'll cut control space, and then we'll assign 0 to this guy. And let's see if that gets rid of our error. All right. So we still get an error that says the array index is invalid for this array. So we'll trace the error, go to the previous. Okay, and now we have a different error. So what we did is we successfully created a C matrix using this for loop. Okay, and we needed to have that so that we come down here, it knows what C is. So when we come down here, now we have a different problem. It says this array index is invalid for this array. What that means usually is that your index is, you're trying to index a value that's not there, or something that's larger than the array. And so in this case what we have done is we've forgotten that we had zero-based indexing. Okay, so in Mathcad this element here is 0, 0. Okay, this is 0, 1, and this is 0, 2. Okay, so really when we said the columns of A, we do have the columns of A. Okay, and we do have the rows of B. Okay, but this is going to go to 3. So this is going to go from 0 to 3. And in this case I did from 1 to the columns of A, but really we're going to go from 0 to the columns of A minus 1, and then from from 0 to the rows of B minus 1. Okay, so we have a Cij matrix that goes from 0 to 2, or 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, so 3 by 3. And then up here we make sure the columns of A are equal to columns E. If we do, we give a 0. Otherwise we're going to come down here and do the same calculation, but we don't go from 1s, we go from 0s in Mathcad. This is going to go from 0 to minus 1. This is going to go from 0 to the rows of B minus 1, and this is going to go from K contained within 0 range variable to 0 range variable to the columns of A minus 1. All right, and then we do that, and we actually calculate the product. Hooray. All right. All right, so what we want to do is we want to make sure we did it right. So we have A, B, and so we'll say test multiply or test answer. We'll say this is equal to A times B. And then we do need to do the equal sign on the end. So many mouse clicks. All right. Equals. All right. And we see that indeed we calculated that correct. So hopefully this will help you if you decide to use Mathcad to program. Okay. Anything contained in these black lines are part of the function. And these black lines define the scope. Okay. So this otherwise here, all this is contained in the otherwise. Okay, up here, this is just part of the program. This is all just part of the program. And if you want to get a result, you got to have the variable at the end of your program so that it gets spit out. Okay, so hopefully this will help you guys get started in Mathcad if you choose to use Mathcad. And I think I asked you to use Mathcad to do the second part of the problem, or SMath. But in the first one, I say use MATLAB. In the third one, I say use MATLAB or Mathcad. And in the fourth one, I say use MATLAB. All right. So good luck. Make sure you start early and try to get as much help as you can from each other during the lab session and from Chow. And I will see you soon.